Welcome to NeuroMovement Revolution with Anat Baniel, where you will discover breakthrough possibilities for your life through the brain's power to change. We're so happy that you can join us in making the impossible possible.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. I want to say good morning too.
That's good. Good morning, Anat.
Good morning, Neil.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 23 of our NeuroMovement Revolution podcast.
Incredible.
So this morning, most of the podcasts we've done, whether intentionally or as it's just turned out, have tended to focus on the work with children. So this morning we wanted to particularly focus on the work with adults and questions from adults about what they're dealing with and how to use the work. So the title is episode 23, Recovery from Stroke, Injury and Pain, All the Way to Thriving. And it says, we've been getting a number of questions about how NeuroMovement can help adults with stroke, brain injuries and other conditions. This episode, we will focus on adults and how this method can help you overcome pain and limitation. Discover what is possible when your brain is provided with the conditions and information it needs to heal and thrive. And we've had quite a few questions submitted. So I'm hoping that the people who submitted questions are online, and maybe you can just let us know if you did submit a question and you are online to make sure that we get to your question for sure. Do you just want to dive in straight with the questions, Anat?
I think so. I mean, this is a question-focused
podcast. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I'll start from the top. Question from Heather Gilbert. It's a short question, but it has a lot in it. Can the method help with painful spasticity? And if so, how?
Okay. So Heather, if you're on the call, maybe you can communicate with us through Facebook, because I assume you're asking about yourself, but maybe you're asking about someone else or professionally. I would have been helpful to have a little bit more background. And the short answer is most times, yes. And the way that we help with painful spasticity is basically helping the spasticity to reduce. And the way we go about it, again, is through using movement and the 9 essentials to communicate with the brain and provide the brain with new connections and new pathways to organize movement and to how it recruits the musculature in order to execute a movement. Because with painful spasticity, it can be, first of all, the actual spasticity, when it gets very intense, can be painful. And it can also result or be a part of the poorly organized movement. That means movement where the organization between the parts and the skeleton relative to the gravitational field is really off. And it would be painful for anyone, whether you have spasticity or not. So these are two layers. And a part of the spasticity is under differentiation in the nervous system. So due to one kind of trauma or another, it can be stroke, it can be a brain injury, it can be any number of causes that where there's loss of nerve cells, loss of nerve matter in the brain. So the ability, the spontaneous ability of the system to differentiate what we've been talking about earlier on in the earlier podcast is diminished, at least for that area. And then whenever the muscles contract, they contract more like a all or nothing. That's basically spasticity. And our expertise or our method or our understanding, what we can contribute, is actually facilitate and enhance the brain's inclination and ability to differentiate, and to differentiate in relation to those muscles. So I hope that's helpful. It's quite theoretical. when I get things more specific, I can answer to that more. But thank you for your question. It allowed me to create a big picture.
So we do have a couple of people online who've said that they submitted questions, so I can particularly start by focusing on those. One of them is Elena, and she says, what would you recommend after having a lumbago sciatica crisis? I felt a current through my waist, the backside of her waist, and fell flat on the floor. I was in immense pain for a few days. Pills did not work. I had to do some injections to be able to stand up again. Now I'm better, yet I can still feel my left side is affected all the way through the leg. Anything I can do to prevent this from happening again? Thank you, Anat.
Okay, Ellen, first of all, I'm so sorry. This sounds like a terrible experience, extremely painful. I think, again, the way that I know to look to prevent a future event like this is to go through a process where you change how you use your spine, your back, your pelvis, your legs as you move. It has to be done very gently, because it sounds like there could, there's some pressure and could be inflammation, some irritation to the sciatic nerve, and it can, be reactivated pretty readily. So in our work, it would be a very gentle, gradual, with small increments of movements, bringing the coordination of the movements to new ways of doing them. So, no two people stand exactly the same. That means that one person can stand in different ways. And the same thing, no two people, walk exactly the same. That means the brain has freedom to figure out standing, walking, and any other movement we do, voluntary movement, in more than one way. So it's really improving, creating new possibilities, a continued process of differentiation in the brain that allows more mapping into the body and more freedom. Now, that's not a specific recommendation of a specific movement exercise to do. The thing that I would recommend if you're looking to utilize ABM, there are two ways. One, if you have a practitioner near you, a graduate that feels comfortable and safe working with you, I would take some private sessions. And the other way is doing the verbal, the TML, transformational movement lessons. Again, could be with a local practitioner, and or could be with some online materials that we have. And again, the bottom line is really small, really gentle, and really not ambitious. So it's not exercise in the way of trying to strengthen or stretch or any other, ways of thinking about it or speaking it. It's really about informing, using movement as a language that informs the brain. Oh, you see, we could do it a little like this, or maybe we could do it a little like that. And to get the pressure that you have, on the nerve to go away. And when that happens, everything else improves. It's not a local improvement. It's a whole body reorganization and upgrading the way the brain works. So it's a kind of like good all around. If you choose to do any other kind of exercise or intervention, the one thing that I would, again, strongly recommend is that you watch out that if a practitioner is working with you, to really make sure they do small, slow, and unambitious. And if they have you do exercise, again, same thing, very small, very slow. If you feel tired, if you feel unsafe doing a certain movement, just don't. I myself, a few weeks ago, went to a wonderful guy, really does amazing work, but it's not about, he's a neurochiropractic,
chiropractic neurologist?
Chiropractic neurologist, something like that. A client of mine actually wanted me to experience what he does, and she paid for it, which was extremely generous, and the guy was amazing, and they did all kinds of very interesting things. and I agreed to some kind of chiropractic adjustment, and I ended up with sciatica and a few things. I just, maybe one of the reasons I do this work is I thrive when I do it the way I advocate it, and I really get injured very, very readily. And you know, some of my challenges, I travel so much and I'm very busy, so I haven't found like 3-4 days to just focus on myself and do it. So I'm doing a lot better, but not as well as I would like. So I have this experience just happened to me just a few weeks ago. Thank you. And if you have any further questions or follow up, we'll continue the conversation. Yes.
I know I have a couple of questions from people who are online. Dina, we're going to go to yours next, but I just want to check in with Lynette, because I know you're having problems with your sound. So if you've got your sound sorted, then let me know, and we'll go to your question too. And if there's somebody who can sort of help Lynette, I know there have been people suggesting different ways to get the sound sorted. So if you can help Lynette get her sound sorted, and Lynette, please let me know if your sound is sorted. So a question from Dina.
And you know, we could also answer it and she could listen to it later.
Okay.
You know,
that's what we'll do if I don't hear.
Either way, yeah.
So Dina says, which of the online videos would be most helpful for stroke victims? I had a stroke 2 years ago, and while I can walk unassisted, I would like to be able to jog slowly. I've purchased the basic sitting, balance, and breathing programs, and have been through all once, as well as doing the basic, the NeuroMovement, whole body NeuroMovement, and the basic 3 times and the sitting twice. And she also added, she said, I'm also willing to purchase other online videos if they are better. Yes, and she then just reiterates what she has done.
Was it at all helpful? We'll need to hear from you if it was at all helpful, because in any way, I don't know about specifically getting to slow jogging, which is fine. You know, we can talk about it. So I know there's a little delay.
Yes.
Yeah, but is she online?
She is online. Dina says yes, it has been helpful. If you could give us a few more details.
Guys, it's kind of like feed our brains some information.
In the meantime, okay. Lynette has sound, so we'll go on to Lynette's question, and then we'll come back to Dina.
Okay. I mean, thank you for entrusting in us and giving us superhuman powers, but we actually do need information.
So Lynette, hi.
Yes.
Thank you. My husband suffered from sudden vision loss in his left eye in June of 2018. After extensive testing with the Mayo Clinic, there was no official cause, although it wasn't expected to happen again. In November of 2018, it happened in the other eye. The easy explanation of what happened is that it was somewhat like a stroke in his optic nerve, and that, of course, left some damage to the nerve. He does have some vision, is able to work as an architect, but cannot drive. We've currently purchased the video lesson from David Weber, Seeing Clearly, a Feldenkrais exploration of vision. In your experience, would NeuroMovement help recover eyesight? If so, do you have any examples to speak from? And then she adds, do you want me to read the next part too?
If it's a different question,
it's just additional. Yes.
No. A separate question requires a separate answer. Well, you know, first of all, one of the things that I'm fascinated with in general, and people who know me, know that I'm fascinated with thinking. I see, and I'll answer your question. Don't worry, but I want to point it out because thinking is, first of all, is one of the most potent applications of the brain or manifestations of brain work. And I don't, at least my experience, most places I go, people don't focus on thinking like if you want to do exercise and how to move the arm or something like that, how to think, what ways to think and potentiating thinking. So when the doctors said that they don't know why it happened, but it's probably not going to happen again, it baffles me. it's like if they don't know what happened, how could they predict anything? I mean, they can look to be reassuring and say, we hope it doesn't happen again, and maybe reduce stress. I mean, I have no idea what they think. But to say, I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you what's going to happen next is really weird. So just to point it out, because we all have to think for ourselves and to decide if something makes sense to us or does not make sense, and then work with it, just like move around with it until we form something that seems like it's a good idea. After that, I'm going to answer your question. The work that we do can impact vision. It has impacted my vision. A lot of it has to do with the general improvement of the operations of the brain body. So because there has been an assault, whether it's the optic nerve itself, sounds like it, but whatever it is, there's been an assault on the brain. And now the brain has to recover vision and sort of figure a way to make sense of the visual input. It has to develop new ways because the old ways have been damaged or taken away to a great extent. So doing the lessons in general, and then it also can reduce the tension in the neck, and it can improve the breathing and reduce anxiety, which by itself improves the vision. I don't know if you've noticed that if you get very anxious or very tired, vision actually can, within the day, within the hour, within the minute, can fluctuate in its acuity and clarity and so on and so forth. So yes, there's room, but that is pretty generalized. There are some eye movement lessons that I have not recorded. I don't think I recorded any eye movement lessons. I don't think I have. No, I have in the audios.
Right, yes.
In the audios, I have one, which also facilitates a vision. I'm just going to mention to you a name of a person that has dedicated his life to vision. He's influenced by the Feldenkrais work. He actually talks about it now, about movement. It's interesting. His name is Meir, M-E-I-R, Schneider, S-C-H-N-E-I-D-E-R. He lives in San Francisco. He works in San Francisco. He does both. He travels also, and he has some online stuff. He has he has video programs that you can purchase. And he has figured a whole lot about vision. He was born fully blind in one eye or almost fully blind, and the other one a little better. But he was considered a blind child, and his parents, by the way, were deaf. So just to see the enormous ingenuity of the human brain is two deaf parents raised a blind child. It's quite remarkable. And he encountered the work through his teacher that was actually a student of Feldenkrais. So a lot of those principles, and Feldenkrais was my teacher too. Anyway, when he was a teenager, he started doing a lot of work. He's driving now. He's in his 60s. I mean, the DMV gets him in and tests him from every direction, but he has, and the plasticity around vision, that means taking a narrowed capacity of the optic nerve and maximizing it by potentiating the brain is very possible. So I would recommend, like, if you're up again, work with this Feldenkrais practitioner, or use you can do the online stuff or go to a local practitioner. That will help the process, definitely. Meir himself teaches those lessons. He is not a practitioner, so he tends to do it a little bit more like athletics. So, again, slow it down, make it more gentle and all that stuff. But what he does, he's a genius in that. And that's my recommendation. Maybe get back to the other
I will,
person.
but I'll just add the
Yeah.
bit following on from Lynette. Sorry, Lynette. She says she has a 6-year-old daughter with CP and has been taking lessons monthly for 2 years in Tulsa and Missouri, in Springfield, Missouri. She has not been able to full-point crawl, and after a recent lesson this past summer, she came home and worked it out on her own. She's quite bright and had me take videos to observe as she tried different ways until she got the one that worked. The next month at a lesson, she was able to get up into tall knees and walk on her knees with a little assistance. She was pretty excited since that is halfway to walking, she says. I'm finishing up my teaching career and plan to be a practitioner for my in-retirement career. We look forward to having you.
Well, I hope you can join this current training. We're opening one in 5 days. Don't wait another 2.5 years. Oh, who's that?
Lynette.
Yeah, Lynette, contact us. I want to see you there. Even we can work something out, but let's see if we can work something out. Yeah, it's so exciting. And so exciting about your daughter. Oh my God, this is wonderful.
Absolutely.
No, back to
I am going back to Dina, who has replied. First of all, she said the lessons, the DVD streaming helped her feel parts of her body better. And then she says, but she still struggles with balance. The balance program was a bit of a challenge, though she did go through it all once.
Okay. So can you read the question again?
Yes. Which of the online videos would be most helpful for stroke victims? I had a stroke 2 years ago, and while I can walk unassisted, I would like to be able to jog slowly. I've purchased the basic sitting, balance, and breathing programs and have been through all once, as well as the basic and the sitting twice.
That's wonderful. And what are the name is
Dina.
Dina, thank you for your question and thank you for doing those lessons. And what I would recommend is for not forever, but for a period of, a little while, use the essential of flexible goals and have the goal of slow jogging, but eventually you can have the goal of faster jogging. Let's not put a ceiling of how far you will go, and at the same time let's be very much at the present, because the very obvious thing is the brain can only differentiate and create something new from where it is, and it needs to create enough approximations to get to whatever the next thing it's going to be able to do. In the process of doing that, like going towards the goal, you will find that other things are improving too. So maybe standing in the kitchen chopping vegetables will become easier. Maybe turning your head to look behind you will become easier. And even though it all sounds unrelated, I know how fully related it is to eventually being able to balance better, being able to move faster. Because what moving faster does, the attempt to move faster, it actually exacerbates spasticity and tends to reduce differentiation if the differentiation is not far along enough. That's one of the reasons when we work with people that have had stroke, we really don't ask them to do things they can't do, because then they get spastic and they groove in that pattern in association with the intention, like to get a hold of a cup or to jog. Everything just goes, and the balance, because the brain can't do those fast movements yet, and those transitions, shifting weight from leg to leg faster. So the jogging is a great, and I'm serious about that. It's a very good goal, and just let it hum in the background. Just throw it forward. I'll tell you that it really transformed my life. Certainly transformed the path of my career. So early on, I was still in Israel, and Feldenkrais was still alive. And a child came to me, 6-year-old child with Down syndrome, that had very difficult time going up and down stairs. He was terrified, especially going down. And I asked Dr. Feldenkrais, I watched him work, I drove him home, we had dinner together, and I asked him, I said, what should I do? And he first resisted telling me, because he didn't like doing what I'm doing here, which is tell people what to do when he didn't see them. And I said to him, I know, but I need your help. So tell me something. So I showed him how the child moved. He gave me a little private hands-on work and showed me what I need to do with the child. And when I worked with the child the first time, I couldn't get him to stay on the table. He was jumping all over the place. And then they came to the second time, and I did what Moshe, I called him Moshe, showed me, and the child was completely still. I mean, it was like he was transfixed. And I went like, oh my God, this is so awesome, and so on. And I called him and I thanked him, and I was so proud of myself and all that stuff. And then the child came to the next lesson 2 days later, and I went like, oh, what do I do now? And I did what I did before, and it was about 50%. I mean, he was still on the table, but it was like nothing like the first lesson. So it was a huge learning for me to see what that brain could do and what that brain did, you know, before I had the Moshe and then the next time. And I knew it's me. I've got to figure it out. So what's the difference? So I called him back and I said, you know, you're an unbelievable genius. And thank you so much. And you helped me, because the first time I called him and said, you're such a genius. Thank you so much, you know. And I said, you're such a genius, but what about me? You know, what am I going to do? So I said, I forgot to ask him what to do the second time. So he said to me, he told me the story. He worked with Julio Curie. They did the research on you know, the Radium Institute in Paris. And, you know, they were the basis for building the atomic bomb, right? I mean, and it was all novel, and they didn't know how they knew they should touch the thing. And so they had to build a kind of like a lever that had such refined control that they could pour radioactive material from one test tube to another with very specific small quantities. So the goal was to do that. It took them a whole year to build that mechanism to be able to continue with the research. That's flexible goals. That's what I got it. He said, Anat, if you want to do things right now, to know everything right now, to get the outcome right now, you maybe will become a good, you know, mechanic. But if you want to be the Jascha Heifetz, that's a famous violin player, you want to be like Jascha Heifetz in what you do, then you have to have, he didn't use the word flexible goals, but I have to do it, you know, just take the process where it takes me until I figure it out. And that was it. That's what I've done ever since. I want you to do this for yourself. And the lessons I would like you to do are called healthy backs, NeuroMovement, you know, healthy backs, for healthy backs. And it's all lying down. It doesn't look like balance. It doesn't look like jogging. It doesn't look like any of it, but you have to go further back to basics. And it just gives me the idea as I'm talking to you that we have to either collect lessons from the existing ones for stroke or record a whole thing for stroke. Because that's what I would do with you if I had you one-on-one. I wouldn't have you jogging, trying to teach you how to jog. I'd put you down, lying down, and help the brain reconstruct some of what it lost, that on the basis of that, it could build jogging. I hope that's helpful. So I'd start with that. And the next one, I would actually do healthy backs, scoliosis, I think, and pain relief.
I was wondering if the vitality and anti-aging.
Vitality and anti-aging. Thank you. I just thought about it. I would like you to also do the healthy backs.
Yeah, no, I think it's great.
But vitality and anti-aging is a 2-day workshop. And it has 11 movement lessons. It has lectures. It has a bit hands-on, you can experiment with somebody else. And we have given it now to a number of stroke. We are just working with stroke, and they're all doing it, and they're all loving it. Thank you for reminding me. Oh my God.
You know, and it's sort of, you learn more about sort of the whole process of the work, not just by doing the lessons, but hearing Anat talking around the subject and what, you know, what we're actually trying to get towards.
And, you know, in relation to the lessons themselves and in general. So what did you call it?
Vitality and anti-aging.
And well-being, I think.
Yes.
I think so. Vitality, anti-aging, and well-being. It's a 2-day workshop. And the NeuroMovement healthy backs. These are the 2, and that will give you 17 movement lessons. So that's quite a lot, and you can redo that, and then go to the better balance, then go to the sitting, then go to the breathing. I think you'll get a whole lot more because you'll be much more ready to do it. Who else?
We have some, I haven't heard from anybody else who submitted a question as to whether they're online, but we have some questions from people who are online.
I would like to honor, and I assume people would listen to it later, so let's at least select a few.
Okay.
And then, I'll give it another 5 minutes, and then we'll go to current questions, so you can keep giving us your questions or responses.
Have you had success with people who have Lyme's disease? My mother has so much pain, she can't even sleep.
Mm.
This is from Nicholas Porter.
Before I answered in terms of, so I've had success with Lyme disease. Yes. Again, very gentle, very short, private, one-on-one, very short lessons, very gentle, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you can work with the practitioner to break up a lesson into 2 and then just do it in smaller segments, or however it can be worked out. But I just read an article, and I forwarded it to me, online, that they have figured something that really helps Lyme disease. And I will look it up, and we will post it on Facebook. That Susan said that really helped her mother too.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, because they're finding some nutritional things and some things that reduce the inflammation that also help. Because I would definitely tackle it from the movement side of it and from the direct physiology side of it. And if you ask what movement lessons, if she wants to do at home, probably the vitality and anti-aging and pain relief will be a good thing for her, again, because it's built for people that, need the reversal of either injury or illness. Or now it's very useful for anybody, because I do the lessons if I now took a week and did the lessons in that workshop, I would feel 1,000,000 times better. You don't have to be ill to benefit from it, and you don't have to be limited to benefit. You just move to the next level of your own quality of movement and organization. But if you have limitations, it's important to start where you can handle it easily. So that's my recommendation, actually, this workshop. And she might want to do the lessons just 10 minutes at a time. So if a lesson is 30 minutes, she can do 10 minutes, take a rest, and then do the next 10 minutes whenever she is ready to do it. And we will look for this other thing that I hope I can find and post on Facebook.
Question from Andrew Webb. I've suffered from PTSD and crippling emotional problems for nearly 40 years. My body is seizing up, holding in emotional pain. I've withdrawn from relationships and involvement. I've tried many forms of therapy, but nothing has helped. What can I do?
Oh, Andrew, right?
Andrew, yeah.
I'm so sorry, Andrew. That sounds like a whole lot of suffering. Again, there's some, I don't know what you've tried. I'm in the universe of neuroplasticity world, and there are people discovering different ways to influence the brain or so on to overcome different things, including like PTSD. I'm not aware at this moment of anything specific from that arena. But we can look at PTSD as working with trauma. And working with trauma requires a few things. It requires that I'm well aware of is the taking the person, the system to that place where it or the person or you feel safe, or as safe as you can. And sometimes the requirements for safety can look bizarre. I had a woman that came to me and she wouldn't let me touch her head. She had, never mind the whole story, but I couldn't touch her head. I couldn't lift her head. I couldn't turn her head. I couldn't touch her head. I went like, okay. And I did everything without touching the head, which for me required some innovation because I usually do things, including the head. And I told her, if ever you feel that it's okay for me to touch your head, you will please let me know. And at a certain point, I don't remember if it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, I worked with her regularly, she allowed me to do it. So that's just an example. I'm not saying that that's what's happening for you. It's the brain reorganizes itself in response to either one-time trauma, or a lot of times trauma is not like one drama event, but it's repeated assault on the system, repeated assault on the sense of safety, and very often in the places where it should be safe, like home, like school, like places that are supposed to be safe. So, and it can be not even extreme assault, just repeated, oh my God, alert alarm. And the system needs to be trained out of that. And the way I know to do it is through our work, through private work, and some work at home. And maybe at the same time, not psychotherapy, like to sit and analyze what happened to you. I suspect you already know. But somebody that can be current with you and give you support ongoingly, also on the emotional level, and maybe give you ways to start touching, encounters with people if that's something you desire. Our work I find to be very, very powerful because it directly communicates with the brain through movement and can give you the experience of well-being, the experience of taking a deep breath spontaneously, the experience of things are okay now, at this second. Maybe they'll just flip in another second, but that allows because once you have that experience, you can build on it and learn to generate that state in yourself. And let us know if you decide to do it, how it goes. I'd really love to know. Okay, now let's take maybe some people live.
Okay. Yeah.
There's
somebody from Turkey, Anat. Greetings from Ankara, Turkey. I had a stroke 3 years ago, left side paralyzed. Now I can walk, but my fine motor skills are a problem. My hand and foot, fingers are grappled. Botox and radio frequency treatment is going on. Do you have any recommendation? Anat,
thank you for communicating with us. I don't. What does she say? Where she lives?
Turkey, Ankara.
Turkey is big.
Ankara.
Ankara.
Okay.
We have practitioners in Ankara.
We do. Yes.
My biggest recommendation is just find. Do you remember who it is? Get on our website, anatbanielmethod.com.
Nilay. I know Nilay is in.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. She'll find in Ankara. Find the practitioner. And work with her. And the way to do it that's most effective is you start what we call intensive. So she sees you at least once a day for 5 or 10 days, or twice a day for 5 days, and then a little less intense the next week, and see how quickly you progress. And then you take a little break, you do movement lessons from the videos. She'll recommend which ones, probably the vitality and anti-aging one. And then you go back at more lessons. The practitioners in Turkey tend to be very, very busy because there are not that many of them. And the book, Kids Beyond Limits, is translated to Turkish. By the way, I recommend for you to read it, even though it tells stories about children. The principles are absolutely no different. It's the same thing. So see if you can find a practitioner. They're also in Istanbul. The kids come to them. They have tons and tons and tons of kids, and also sometimes some of my practitioners from the United States fly to Turkey and are there for a week or two giving lessons. So just get yourself connected with the community and get lessons. This is what I know works extremely well. And I don't know if you saw the film that we showed. We'll get it again, I don't know when, but A Life Unbound, Tessa, you can go online, see what happened with Tessa. She came to us. She sounded like you, just worse. She was aphasic and other things, and the improvement was remarkable. And she's not the only one. It's not like a one-off. So that's my recommendation. You can definitely get better. The arm, oftentimes, if it's if we don't catch it immediately doing our work, it doesn't come fully back, because the whole thing has been grooved in too powerfully. At least we don't know how to reactivate the plasticity to the degree that it will allow it. But there's great improvements in movement, in thinking, in stability, in balance, in fine motor. Also the arm that now you're using a lot. So do it. You can feel a lot better and do better. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from a practitioner here about an adult client.
Oh, hi, Ali.
Ali, hi.
You snuck in with a question, yes.
I've been working with a young woman who had her speech impacted. Her language is intact, but her, I guess, diction from a car accident 4 years ago. Anat, you met her at the Lloydminster workshop.
Yes.
She's having a hard time grasping how, if we don't work with her speech directly, her speech will improve. She thinks we are giving up on her speech by backing off and working on other areas, if that makes sense. Any suggestions for how I can explain this to her?
Well, I met her. She is incredibly anxious. Understandably, she's devastated, and anxiety, Ali, gets people to be less flexible in their thinking and less intelligent. So it's not that she's not intelligent. It's just that she can't. Everything is just narrowed. So the thing is, one thing you can say to her, nobody teaches children how to talk, and they talk. They roll to their belly, they crawl, they babble, they cry a lot, whatever you want to tell her. And they end up talking. So how did they get there? Did anything they did along the way before they actually started saying something had anything to do with talking? Of course it did. And children that don't move and don't, are unable to do those things very often can't talk. You see your speech therapist, you can tell her that. And you can give her a picture of the brain, I don't know, whatever. And then you take a period of time and you ask her to play with you, or I don't call it play because I don't think of it as play, but you ask her to partner with you. And you say to her, give me a month. I don't know how often you see her, Ali, but I would see her very intensely. I'll do, intensives, 2 weeks going, give her a few days off, because also that will keep, and really work on distracting her from speech. Absolutely distracting. Then once you because the moment she thinks of speaking, it's fully grooved in what she's doing now. This is what she does when she's speaking. So even though it doesn't sound like much of speaking, this is what the brain now is generating. That's just like the spastic kind of after stroke. Hold the cup. They do this, and then you say, hold the cup. That's what you get. That's what the brain created. So, and you explain that to her. You can say to her, we've not only got to not practice your speech, we've got to back off from even trying to speak, because every time, now that's what you're an expert at. You're an expert at failing in your diction. We've got to get you out of that. And you ask her and you reassure her and you say, look, if this is not going to work, it's been a year ago, it's already not working. She got a ton of speech therapy. So you say, look, give me a month, and then we'll see, maybe then after that you'll give me another month. But I need to work with you very intensely and get her to get and find if she's any other interests. Maybe she likes dancing. Maybe she likes singing. Maybe, get her to, so she moves well enough to go dancing. And she can go with a little thing on her, say, I understand language, but it's hard for me to talk. So if she goes to a group of people dancing, they will know ahead of time. It's a huge psychological transformation. You need to be really strong, Ellie. You can't be just Canadian. You have to take a little Israeli thing from me, jeans. Loving. You're loving anyway, so you can't do it any other way. But I think what I'm telling you is very important for everybody listening. And everybody listening sees the challenge of the ABM practitioner to do ABM with them, because everybody tries to fix them. Remember, from fixing to connecting? And we try to say, ooh, wait a minute, we can fix you. But we can take you through a process that increases the likelihood that you're going to get what you're looking to get. Because that's how you learn to do things to begin with. That's how anybody learns to do anything. So really, really, really important. Okay? Go for it. And have Dan help you, because he can be a little more severe than you. In a friendly way. And she has to say yes to it. And then she'll get anxious and tell you are saying yes to me, and you'll still feel anxious and you'll still have doubts, and that's okay. I can handle that. I, the practitioner. I can handle your disbelief. I can handle your doubts. I don't have a problem. Doubt from here to the wazoo, but let us do the process and work like that. Okay.
So there's a question here about the online programs from Anna Maria.
Mm-hmm.
Should your online TMLs be sequenced in any particular way?
Well, they're sequenced within each program, and I recommend to do them in their sequence, in their order, at least for 2 rounds. And then if you want to choose a lesson because you feel like it or you like it better, but anytime after you do it, absolutely. Don't get stuck on one lesson, because you habituate into it and it stops having the full potency of the novelty within the lesson. So we want to keep ourselves in a process, ongoing process of growth, of differentiation in the brain, of discovery, of creation. So then the sequence of the programs to do, the whole brain body program has a sequence. I mean, we start with a basic one, and then probably the better sequence is the breathing, then the sitting, and then the balance. That is probably the in general the best sequence. If there's any issues with the back and so on, I'd start with healthy backs, healthy necks, and healthy back scoliosis and pain relief, and then move according to interest, but to the whole brain body. And again, if there's more limitation, I'll start with vitality anti-aging, then go to the back, the neck, and back and scoliosis, and then go to the form. And then, of course, if you have a child with special needs and you want to learn to use the principles with your child, then I would go to the 5-day parent-child workshop first. And there are lessons there that I did with the parents to introduce them to themselves, the essentials in themselves, so they have a sense of what they're taking their child to do. And also the other half is showing how to do certain things with the child, how to use the essentials. There are 24 families, 24 children there. So there's a great variety from 6 months old to 17 years old. Yeah.
Okay. We have a couple more questions online, and they're actually more focused on children. So I'll go back to the questions that we were sent in, and then if we have time, we'll get to those too. So my husband had a stroke and this is from Rita Reed. My husband had a stroke and had numbness on the right side of the face. This gradually went, then returned after a few months. Mm-hmm. Why, she asks.
Well, I don't know why. I'm about to sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you. I'll take any blessings anybody wants to give me at any time. So the numbness has to do with the disruption or the loss of connections, but very often some of the loss of function or sensation is associated not with full destruction of the, all the elements that, or, if you think of it as neural networks, not the whole network is gone. A portion of it is either gone or inhibited, traumatized, degraded. So we find that I have experienced it firsthand a number of times, very dramatic, where I worked with somebody who had a stroke. And this one guy was 56, 57-year-old from Canada, an engineer. And he had the left side stroke, and he had the paralysis and so on, and loss of sensation in his whole arm on the right side. And it was my first session with him, and I wanted to know how much he had sensation or not, but I saw in the report that he didn't have sensation in his arm. So I touched the shoulder, and I said, "Do you feel this?" And he said, "Yes." Then I touched the upper arm, and he said, at the top. I just moved my hand slowly down his arm. I said, "Do you feel this? And do you feel this? And do you feel this?" I did some work on him first, and he had a couple lessons, I think, before.
He'd been with us for a week working with Chris and me.
And then
then you saw him.
Yes. So you say, do you feel this? Do you feel this? Do you feel this? And he said, "Yes." He had this funny way of talking, "Yeah, yes, yes." And he was a very intelligent man. I said, because I got confused that maybe he didn't lose his sensation in the arm. And I said, "Since when?" And he said, "Now." So just a few things, they did what they did, and then what I did in my, click the whole thing back in. Tessa, which you can see online, I didn't even know she had ringing in the ears and no sensation in the right side of the face. She also left side stroke. The chest, she felt pain. It's different pathways, neural pathways, but she didn't have sensation. And I gave her the session. I worked on her chest, apropos, what to do with somebody who thinks you have to work directly. But I worked on her nervous system, so. And she comes back to the next lesson. She says, "The ringing in the ears is gone." I went like, okay. It's like I didn't even know she had ringing in the ears, but the brain was able to sort it out. We were in Canada 3 weeks ago. We did a work with the schools there, and I did a 20, 30-minute lessons on the floor with a woman who had a direct operation on her ear, on the eardrum. And she had horrible ringing. And after doing this lesson, the ringing was gone. And I said to her, "You have to keep doing more work because, it can come back." It's like the brain found how to do it, but the other things are still operating. The other stressors are still operating. And she didn't do it, and gradually it came back. And I said to her but she kept saying to me, "This is how it is. The doctors tell her it's going to take a long time." I said, "Did the doctors tell you that when you do 20-minute lesson, it'll stop for 24 hours? It's like, again, thinking. You've got to figure out thinking. It's very important. So coming back to the question is, the reason it comes back is probably that the system somehow figured out, and there's more stressors on the system, and it regresses back to the other state. Again, if he can get a few private lessons, I don't know where you live, but or do the work, or work with a really, really gentle osteopath that really will work very gently on the area of the head and the neck, and maybe relieve some, maybe that'll help. But I think it's very promising if spontaneously it got better. Yeah.
A question from Lindsay Hilsenbeck. What is the best treatment for left-sided neglect, and can it be totally resolved? My husband had a midbrain stroke 6 weeks ago.
Oh my God. Lindsay, where do you live?
406 is the area code.
Anybody can get on the
Canada?
phone, find out where 406 area code. 6 weeks ago, it's perfect to get him get lessons intensives right away. I worked with very severe strokes, three of them immediately, like within one of them within 3 days, one of them within a week, something like that, and two of them within a week. Complete recovery, language, movement. One of them was a pianist. Complete recovery. Catch it now. He might be in rehab and they're trying to make him do things that he might. I don't know how you can work it out. Where is it? Montana. What's the closest? Denver. Maybe we can go to Denver. Maybe where's the closest? I want somebody experienced. Maybe. Anyway, if you can travel and do 2 weeks, take a break if they will let you from rehab. You can go to rehab afterwards back if you want to, but now, as soon as possible, because every day, the brain immediately after stroke has huge intensification of plasticity. That means like a child, it's ready to create connections like a lot faster. And so that, this is it. That's my main recommendation. If you don't do it, then, a few months pass, we'll see where he's at, and then I can make other recommendations. But this is my recommendation right now, really. Anywhere, fly somewhere, get on an airplane, actually contact our office. She just gets online and emails who?
Scheduling.
Yeah, but if she gets on the website, it's scheduling, the word like to schedule, scheduling at anatbanielmethod.com or staff@anatbanielmethod.com.
She can also go on the website and search by zip code.
Yeah, but I'd like to give her recommendations who she should see.
Okay.
So you get on the website and search by zip code, but Dalit is here, my scheduler actually, and I have a meeting with her about scheduling after this, and she can either help you locate the most experienced practitioners that are most convenient for you and your husband to go, but really just I tell you, just go for it. Michael Merzenich, the father of Dr. Merzenich of neuroplasticity science. It was a wonderful thing with the Dalai Lama. Doesn't matter, whatever. And we are in the car back to the airport, and he says to me, "If anything happens to me," the topic was stroke. He says, "I want to go to you." So it wasn't just me personally, it's the understanding of how to approach it. So I'm just trying to give your husband the best and you the best possible. Yes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. So these are two that I think could go together. One is, if a person is totally disabled from a stroke, wheelchair bound, unable to move, can NeuroMovement help them get any abilities? How about speech? And then a question from Linda, what can I do to help a friend who had a stroke a year ago and I noticed almost no improvement whatsoever? She's 65. My interest is to know what movements are appropriate for her to bring back her speech and right side movement. She's in a long-term care facility and apparently gets 1 or 2 days rehabilitation, but I see no improvement.
Okay, so to both of you, first of all, it's very important to say, I have not seen anyone that had a stroke that we worked with that did not get somewhat better. So we have a guy that had a massive, Frank.
Yeah.
Massive, in a long-term care facility and so on. And he's not become independent, but first of all, he feels much better. He's able to say some words. He's interactive, so there's some interaction. They take him to church. He participates in singing. He still needs full care, but his life quality is much, much better. And as a result, for all the people who love him, it's also much better. So it's important to know. There aren't specific movements for specific symptoms. There are movements that we do when somebody's really lost a lot of the higher functions. We don't give them instructions unless they can follow it. So we do hands-on. And that is something that, needs to be learned. A thing that you can do is you can apply the essentials as you interact with them, as you move them, because people like that, you help them move from a wheelchair to the bed. You can touch, let's say, the front of their pelvis and the back and their shoulders and the head like this, and say, all this is going to move forward, so you help me get transition. You probably know it, but I want you to feel like this is your arm, so you make sure they don't think that you think that they are retarded. Sorry for the word, people don't like that word, but it's a real word. And then you say, this is your other arm. These are your shoulders. Now, would you like to roll? If you like me to roll, blink with your eyes. See if they respond. Roll them to the side slowly. Touch their pelvis, because usually people don't remember they have a pelvis and there's no movement without the pelvis. So you say, touch the pelvis. You use the essentials. You interact with them like there's intelligence there, but you give them the input through variation, through slow down, through movement with attention to what they feel. Say, how does that feel? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Even if they don't answer, you say, well, it feels good to me, so I'm going to do it a little longer, but not too long in case you don't like it. You stay authentic, authentic, authentic. Thank you, guys. You're awesome. You know, anything that we can do through this, podcasts or through the books or the work or the video, we would love to be of help. Stroke, 800,000 cases a year in the United States alone. And rehab, in my mind, has really a huge room for huge transformation. And the people that do the rehab are extremely dedicated people. The therapists and the doctors and everybody, the nurses. It's just that let's bring the 21st century science into it and the applications. So let us know how it's going. If you do what we recommended, how you feel about it, let us know. We really would like to know on Facebook or email us or however you're comfortable doing it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have a comment here from Val who says she hopes there's a replay. And yes, this video stays on our Facebook page, but we also post it on our website and other venues where you can listen to your podcast.
iTunes, all those venues. Yeah. Yes, and they're there. They're there forever.
Thank you very much for joining us, and see you next time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on NeuroMovement Revolution with Anat Baniel. You will find all of our podcasts and additional resources on our website at www.anatbanielmethod.com. You can also subscribe to this podcast for free on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn. We look forward to seeing you online for our next NeuroMovement Revolution.